Helldivers, the Polar Patriots Warbond, is now available, and just like we've done in the past, we're going to dive in and look at every page of the Warbond, looking at the weapons, the armor, the boosters, and really breaking down what's what. This is the first Warbond since the release of the game that hasn't had extensive leaks, so I am very excited to check out some of the stats for the first time myself before taking them into the field. With that in mind, let's dive in and check out Polar Patriots. Alright, so first things first, on page 1 here we have the AR-61 Tenderizer. This was the only weapon, truthfully, that I was really interested in because I am still searching for that primary weapon that I just feel really comfortable with. You can see it's got pretty decent stats, 60 damage, 35 capacity, 10 recoil, and a 600 fire rate. For all intents and purposes, this functions like a very standard primary milsim weapon, comparable to the Liberator and other weapons that have been introduced into the game. There is nothing really fancy about this one. It's got light armor penetrating, which every gun has. There's no special effects. You do actually have a scope on there, so that's nice for some mid-range encounters. But in terms of overall stats, I'm not blown away, and that's okay, because if this thing feels good in the field and can act as somebody's main primary without feeling cumbersome or quirky, I think the AR-61 Tenderizer could be a really good fit for a lot of people. Again, haven't tested it myself, I will do that later, but first glance, I'm really happy about the way this thing looks on paper. On page 1, we also have the booster, Motivational Shocks. I think this one is okay, but it is a bit niche. It allows all Helldivers to recover faster after being slowed by an attack such as acid, and it doesn't mitigate area effects such as EMS strikes. So if you're using the EMS Sentry, not going to do much there. It's okay. I don't think this one is very special by any stretch. Like, yes, the acid attack stinks when a hunter attacks you and slows you down. Yes, that's not great, but overall, I can't see this being used in place of something a little bit better. In terms of armor, you guys already know if you watched our previous video covering the reveal of the Polar Patriots, but none of this armor features anything new in terms of passive bonuses. That is a huge problem for me at this point. The team has introduced so many armor sets and we are still dealing with the exact same passives, which doesn't give anybody any options. It's not that I'm clamoring for a bajillion options, it's just that there are so few options that players really don't have anything that they can latch onto other than the 5 or 6 that are in the game. So you see here the CW36 Winter Warrior has servo assisted, which increases the throwing range by 30% and provides 50% increased limb health. Okay, not bad, not great, just looking for something different. Of course, there is the matching helm. I will admit, I do actually really enjoy the armor sets, the way they look, because they're different. They're not your traditional, what you'd expect to see in Helldivers, and they're a bit off the beaten path. They're unique in a way, and I like that. We've also got a new salute, the Mime Instrumentation, which is just a little bit of air guitaring. Of course, we've also got the Dissident's Nightmare Cloak, which is pretty cool, as well as the matching player card, and then of course, 100 super credits. All right, on page 2, we're going to start with the SMG-72 Pummeler, and on paper, again, I really like this one. Believe it or not, does more damage than the first weapon we talked about with 65. It's got a capacity of 45, so definitely an increase there. Same amount of recoil with 10, but a slower fire rate of 475. Really interesting weapon. They did say that this is going to be a slower firing SMG, and I actually think that's pretty good because the other SMGs in the game have a very fast fire rate, and having a little bit more control over that weapon, I think is going to be a boon, not a boondoggle. So that damage is something to really focus in on. 65 damage is pretty good for a primary weapon. It's 5 more than the first weapon we talked about, like I said, and you can wield this in one hand. So if you're the person that's running the objective for your team, or you're somebody that likes to run with a shield or wants to try running with a shield, you can now do that with the SMG-72 Pummeler. On this page, we also have the new G13 Incendiary Impact. As you guys know, if you've used the Incendiary Grenade, when you throw it, causes a bed of fire, and then if you use the Impact Grenade, you throw it, it detonates upon impact. So now you're just combining the best of both worlds. Not an insane amount of damage, 150, but remember, you do have that Incendiary effect, which is going to continue to chip away at enemies' health. Interesting to see if this thing will stack up against the Impact or the Incendiary. I think it might, but it's just a matter of trying it out for ourselves here. Of course, on page 2, we've also got the CW22 Kodiak, with a K, not a C, I might point out. This is a cool armor set that, again, has an old armor passive, fortified, further reduces the recoil when crouching or prone by 30%, and provides 50% resistance to explosive damage. So my favorite passive if I'm fighting on the automaton front, but again, not a new passive, not something I'm that excited about. It does have the same stats. I'm going to check this really quick. I believe it's got the exact same stats as the other one. It sure does, right? Going back and forth here. Yeah, it's got the exact same stats as the first armor set, so nothing to write home about there, but in terms of the look and feel, it feels very Helldiver-y. You do have a cool helmet with a red visor, so if you're into that, now you have an option. On this page, you've also got the Call the Helldivers emote, which is kind of cool, just like a mock phone call. And then you've got the Pinions of Everlasting Glory, which is a brown, yellow, and gray cape, which is, I think, a different kind of set. Obviously, it goes with the Kodiak armor, but I do like the color scheme of this Pinions of Everlasting Glory cape. And then, of course, the matching player card and 100 super credits. All right, on page 3, this is where things get a little strange because we start with the Plaz 101 Purifier. This is an energy-based weapon that fires off pretty much a charged up round of plasma, and it looks like a primary weapon version or alternative to the railgun. It does have medium armor penetration, it does have a charge up effect, and it's explosive. So you've got high damage, you've got low capacity, you've got high-ish recoil, and an incredibly slow rate of fire. I cannot wait to test this thing out because I feel like the energy weapons in the game, they started off pretty weak, they got stronger through some balances, but I still have yet to find an energy-based weapon that I really like. And I think the Plaz 101, because it is a little bit closer to a Milsim style weapon in the sense that it doesn't have that like weird lobbing effect of the Plaz Slugger or whatever it was called. This one feels a little bit more applicable for Helldiver missions. So we will see if the Plaz 101 can stack up. Also on this page is the P113 Verdict. I am so incredibly excited about this weapon. I think this is going to be the one that a lot of players gravitate towards because it's a secondary that does high damage. It does have an incredibly low capacity, but it's still better than some of the other options out there, specifically the Senator. But remember, the Senator did get that speed reloader now, so I think that's kind of why they balanced it the way that they did. It does have a very high recoil, and it's got a decent rate of fire. This is a one-handed secondary weapon. As with all pistols, it's got light armor penetration, so not as good as the Senator there, but that high damage, 125, is definitely something to talk about. In terms of the armor set on this page, we've got the CW4 Arctic Ranger, which is a light set of armor. It does have the Scout Armor passive, which allows markers to be placed on the map, generating radar scans, and reduces the range at which enemies can detect the wearer. I have to admit, I know I've said it a few times now, I think the armor at this point needs a refresh. We need to look at the armor passives, we need to focus on them and introduce some new blood into this game because all of these armor sets just look like armor to me at this point. They don't matter because the armor passives I have 10 times over. This one also comes with the Order of Venerated Ballot Cloak, which is a blue and orange cloak, kind of cool, as well as the matching player card. We've also got one final emote, the Distribute Ballots for that Managed Democracy, and of course your final 100 super credits. So overall, I actually think Polar Patriots looks okay. Here's the thing, there's a lot of conversation happening right now about balancing. The CEO of Arrowhead Games has even said the team has taken their balancing too far. And I think that is commendable that the CEO is saying that, but now it's a matter of action speaking louder than words. The Democratic Detonation Bundle, in my opinion, was a huge wash. Yes, that secondary grenade pistol was very good, but the overall bundle itself, not that great. I think other things like Cutting Edge were pretty good to start. The sickle was a fantastic weapon that they then nerfed into oblivion, specifically with reserve ammunition. Of course, Steeled Veteran started off strong too. That Incendiary Breaker is still a favorite amongst a lot of Helldivers, but overall, if they're going to keep doing this month after month, they really do need to be careful about how they balance these weapons. Ultimately, I hope the CEO's words ring true and that they make some changes to the way they balance this game. They need new content, not necessarily new weapons and armor. So there you have it, friends, the new Polar Patriots Warbond, breaking down everything that's in that pack. We are, of course, going to be diving into the weapons ourselves, testing them, and then bringing you a little bit of analysis in a future video. Of course, if you like our content and you want more Helldivers 2 in your feed, drop us a like, consider subscribing. My name is Kodiak, and from everyone here at Legacy Gaming, thanks for watching, and play on.